Hey everyone, today we're at Sikorsky Airport here in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I'm here with my good friend Andrew Hayden, who is Irish, so we probably can't understand anything he says, but I'll translate for you. This AW109, which is part of your fleet.
It is.
Tell us a little bit about your company. What do you do?
The company is Azimuth Aviation. We are based right here at Three Wing Aviation at Sikorsky Memorial, and the company is less than 6 months old, and we are focusing on public transport 135 charter market,
which is executives flying from one
VIP transportation, New York City,
Yep.
to the Hamptons, to Boston, to
Yep.
wherever they want to go.
Yeah. And as a point of interest, Three Wing Aviation are the people that taught me how to fly the fixed wing. So allegedly, yeah. No actual license yet.
Yet to be proven.
Yes. So the 109 is a very interesting aircraft, very popular light twin, isn't it?
Yes.
Even the New Zealand Air Force has 5 of these as their training aircraft. Yeah.
That I didn't know.
What does the Irish Air Force have? Some sort of hang glider?
They currently have EC-145, I believe.
All right, so we'll do a tour around the aircraft, and we'll have a look at all the many buttons and dials and pulleys and wheels, you know, and then we'll take it for a quick flight. Okay, so starting at the nose. What have we got in the nose, Andrew?
What do we got in the nose? The nose, in the front of this aircraft, we have the battery compartment, and on the other side we have an avionics bay where there's some of the helipilot systems and the transponder, etc. So there's a NiCad battery up the front here, and as you can see on the other side we've got some of the avionics equipment. So the GPS receiver, antenna on the nose, we've got the actual transponder receiver in there as well. Yep. And some of the helipilot system.
And this is the quick release?
That is the quick release on the battery, so usually at the end of the day we will disconnect that.
Right.
All right. Quick release, easy connect, easy disconnect.
Sure. And this being a turbine helicopter, we like to have a full charge.
Yeah, so fully charged battery prior to flight is a good thing. I mean, the aircraft last flew 3 days ago, so no concern today, but if it was sitting for any longer than that, we keep it trickle charged.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Aircraft wire is always the standard white, impossible to know.
Yeah, and what. Those harnesses, there's an awful lot of stuff going on there.
Yep.
I have no idea where they all go.
We'll just cut this one and see what
happens.
Let's
not do that. All right.
So there's GPS?
So that is one of the 2 GPS antennas. The other one is mounted on the top of the vertical fin of the back of the aircraft.
Oh, right up the back.
So being that this aircraft is IFR capable, single pilot IFR capable, there's 2 of pretty much everything.
Okay.
So those are the 2 GPS antennas. We can have a look in the avionics bay. So we've got flight director interface unit, annunciator test, annunciator unit. We have some, what else we got here? The Garmin GPS units, and we've got the GTX 333ES, I believe, is the transponder, which remotely connects into the avionics system in this. By that I mean I have touchscreen GPSs in there that I can just punch in the code on the screen, which interfaces with the unit down here. And
what's this big black box? Who knows?
That is the symbol generator for the EFIS 40 system, which is the attitude indicator.
Oh, okay.
And
that's sort
HSI,
of help the pilot assistance.
Correct.
Stuff. Right. Very cool.
Primary flight flight display.
Yeah.
They're secured.
Now, one of the cool things about this aircraft is under here. It's got retractable landing gear, doesn't it?
Yes, we have tricycle landing gear, 2 main and 1 nose wheel.
Yep.
And the maximum operating speed and maximum VLO/VLE, maximum operating and extending speed is 120 knots. So we must have the gear retracted prior to 120 knots, and on the landing we will not drop the landing gear until we are below 120 knots. Had a habit I do that at about 100 knots.
So what do you think, having the retractable gear, how much speed does this give you, do you think?
it's quite a noticeable amount of drag when we drop the landing gear. So when we do that in flight, you'll feel it's like putting the brakes on a little bit. Definitely allowing us to go that extra 25 or 30 knots quicker with the gear up.
Yeah. Okay. So it's substantial.
Substantial.
Okay. So walking around, we won't go in here yet, but we've got a refueling port.
So we have 2 main and 1 auxiliary tanks on the aircraft. This is the left main filling point. The right main and auxiliary tanks filling ports are on the other side.
Yep.
Up here, it's just an access panel to get to the transmission deck. If I open this one up, you'll be able to see this is where we have the 2 engine oil tanks, so I can check the engine oil levels right there.
Right.
They were checked this morning. They're both about midway, which is
So
good.
how do you check? Do you actually take the...
There's a sight glass there that you can see. If
I
I shake the aircraft, you might be able to see the fluid level. Jump up and down a little bit.
Yep.
There you go.
Oh, very cool.
Okay.
So speaking of the transmission, should one engine fail...
Yeah, 2 engine operation. If one engine should fail, the other engine will ramp up to be able to continue flight. This aircraft, we can't sustain cruise speed, but we slow it down.
Yep.
So you can slow down. You have sustained flight capability with single engine. So 1 engine inoperable, we can continue flight.
Right, and you'd never notice.
You would notice there'd
you
be
would
all manner
notice.
of noises and beeping going on in the cockpit. But yes.
All right.
I won't be demonstrating that for you today.
Okay, fine.
Okay. This is the number 1 engine air intake. So feeding engine number 1 here. Engine number 1 is under this access panel here, which we can have a look at. The engines are Allison 250 C20R engines.
Right, because there's a variety of engines that come in this aircraft, aren't there now?
There are. The later models have Pratt & Whitney's, I believe.
Yep.
So engine comes in here, goes through the compressor,
Yep.
comes off through the diffuser, down the side of the engine, into the combustion chamber, forward through the turbine, and out the exhaust.
Yeah, the exhaust here. On both sides. It looks almost identical on the other side?
It does.
Right.
They are identical engines.
That is cool. So what is this intake then?
That is the cooling air inlet for the number 1 starter generator. So the starter generator is in operation the whole time. We usually start the aircraft and then it's running to provide electrical power to some of the systems. So to prevent it from overheating, there is a little intake here.
Right.
Sucks air in, keeps it cool.
Yep. So there are actually 4 exhausts up there.
There are 2 for each engine on either side of the turbine. There's an exhaust stack that comes out from each engine, so it's two per engine. What you're seeing here is a cooler, oil cooler.
Oil cooler, yep.
Right? And in here, you can see the drive shaft coming out of the number 1 engine.
Right.
Which goes into a combination unit that drives the tail.
Oh, okay. Oh, so this is what's driving the tail?
Correct.
Okay. So how far back does the luggage compartment?
So the cargo bay starts here at the front of the cargo bay door and goes all the way back to...
I was going to say, there seems
right
to be a lot of
here.
room in here.
So there's quite a bit of room. Let me see what mess I've got in here. Not a whole lot. You can go in there and you can see that the cargo bay goes quite a way back.
Oh yeah, look back there.
That's the ELT over there mounted.
Oh, yep.
That's a 406 megahertz ELT.
Give that a try today.
Let's not do that.
Let's not do that, okay.
Okay.
It's just no fun.
No, absolutely not. So this is a stabilator as opposed to a stabilizer. Stabilizers being fixed units.
Yep.
Stabilators moving. So when I lift the collective, this will move at the same time, and the purpose is to allow the aircraft to fly level in forward flights, as aircraft, like other twins in this market, is designed for passenger comfort.
Right.
So I'll go lift the collective for you and you can see this thing move.
Ah, yes. It's not a lot of movement.
It's not a whole lot, but it makes all the difference.
Yep.
So you notice the aircraft flies level in most of its range of flight.
Oh, so instead of being a nose down attitude at
Correct.
speed, it's much more level.
It's going to keep the aircraft level.
I see, interesting.
And then we get to the tail rotor.
Yep.
So the other GPS antenna that we were talking about earlier
Right up
on is
there.
right up on the top of the vertical fin. 2 two-bladed.
Yeah, it's kind of stubby, isn't it?
Yeah, it actually, the tail rotor authority in this aircraft is pretty good.
Yep.
There's an access panel here, a window that we can see through to the tail rotor gearbox oil level.
Yep.
Quite a lot of attention paid to the tail rotor on the 109 in a pre-flight. Make sure everything is good. We don't want anything going on with the pitch change links here.
Yep.
The rubber boot, the safety wiring is actually an airworthiness directive that has to be checked prior to every single flight.
Right. These here.
But I say that every single day. So a lot of attention given to the tail rotor before on a pre-flight, which was done this morning.
Yes.
Okay. When we go to this side, we can get access to the very aft end of the tail rotor control rod through this access panel here, and the underside of the tail rotor gearbox. That's the filling port for the tail rotor gearbox oil.
Okay.
So we can add oil there, and then you can see that the tail rotor control rod ends
Oh, I
here.
see. Yep.
There's actually also a
So
place
as
for
you-
me
as
to
you-
go and check. There's a little.
As you're pressing your pedals, this is back and forth.
That's
here.
correct.
And that's all unassisted. There's no hydraulics.
There is
Oh, yeah.
the collective, cyclic, and tail rotor pedal and tail rotor are all
Hydraulic.
hydraulically
Oh,
boosted
really?
in this
Okay.
aircraft. Yeah. There's actually 2 hydraulic systems in the aircraft for redundancy.
Oh, okay. And both systems are fully redundant on all controls.
No,
No.
the number 1 system does not drive the tail rotor. One of the systems does not drive the tail rotor.
see.
So you've got collective, cyclic, and tail rotor pedals on one system, and just collective and cyclic on the other
So
system.
strong legs, if that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, bit of pressure. Yeah.
So at the bottom of the tail rotor, the vertical stabilizer, you got the stinger. Stinger is a last chance defense mechanism in case we were to drop the tail too low. It
Yep.
would help us level the aircraft and protect the tail rotor from striking the ground, which would be bad.
Let's just feel here. How many times have you struck this lately? Oh, not
I'm
too
going to
many.
go with none, I hope.
Oh, really? Ah.
None that I'm aware of.
Really?
Yeah, let's go, yeah.
Once again, today maybe. Refueling
So
ports.
this is the number 2 engine right side fuel cap, auxiliary fuel cap. We can add an extra 40 gallons in here. The
So the
aircraft,
fully fueled-
it's 210, it's actually 213 kilograms of jet fuel in each main tank.
Which would give you what sort of.
That's
Flight
about
time.
2 hours,
Right.
2 hours of flight time, and some extra if you wanted the auxiliary.
See?
Now, we also have an access panel here. Give us a look into the right side main landing gear bay. You can have a look in there. So this is the bay up into which the right main landing gear
Oh, it's quite-
retracts. It's
Oh, so
quite
it
roomy.
sucks it right up in there.
Yeah,
does
so
it?
what happens is this door actually opens up, wheel comes up, and it all closes up again.
Oh, so this door here opens, does it?
Yeah, see the hinge points here?
So it's quite a complex mechanism, isn't it?
It is. The later models don't have the same, they have the E model and onward have a slightly different configuration, which is a little simpler.
Yep.
So we can also see in these here, that is the number 2 airframe fuel filter, and some more avionics magic going on in here.
Yep.
Some of the links for the flight control systems, you can see them there.
Yep. I see, yep. So where are the hydraulics?
So the hydraulic reservoirs are just up here, so I can see the hydraulic fluid levels here. So
Oh, yep.
there's a normal and an emergency hydraulic system.
Yep.
So one tank is slightly bigger than the other. You can see the levels are nominal,
Yep.
the hydraulic fluids. There's also some filters up there with bypass indicators that are required to be checked before flight, which again was done this morning. So that's where the tanks are.
And with a lot of helicopters, you get a little bit of hydraulic leakage. Is it true of this aircraft?
You do get a little bit of hydraulic leakage. It's very minor on this aircraft. I'll show you the drain points in just a second, but on the topic of the hydraulic, the actuators, I can show you one of the actuators right here.
Oh, they're way up there.
Yeah, so
So this is for the.
that there
Drain rotor.
is one of the hydraulic servos.
Right.
Okay, there's another one on the other side.
I see.
So there's 3 in total.
Yeah, and the vertical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the vertical, because you can see the rotating, the stationary swash plate is what
Yeah.
it's pushing on there to change the
That's cool.
position. So when we make a cyclic input, that's what's going to move.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about this rotor system as well.
Yes. So this is a 4-bladed, fully articulated rotor system.
Yep. So we should have no trouble flying upside down.
Well, yeah, no flying upside down in
What?
this one. It's not a rigid system. Not very many helicopters can be flying upside down.
So 4-blade is going to be a great deal smoother than 2-blade for a start, isn't it?
Yeah. So they tend to be a little smoother. They're a little more complex to do the track and balance on.
Right.
But once they're properly track and balanced, they tend to be extremely smooth. This aircraft is actually really well balanced, so it's extremely smooth in cruise flight, which is great for customers. You got 2 pitot tubes at the top of the forward canopy here
To make it look angry.
to make it look angry.
Yes.
With the pitot heat on, you don't want to touch those; they get a little bit warm.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And this is an outside air temperature gauge.
Let's have a quick look in the cabin. This is where
That's where Nick stores all his camera equipment.
that's where I store my camera equipment. So excuse that.
Passenger number 1 is already on board.
We already have Mr. Gorilla. So ideally, you're 4 or 5 people in here.
This aircraft, the 109 is originally configured for 6 in the back. The interior on this particular aircraft was refurbished about 4 or 5 years ago, and the rearward-facing middle seat was removed to provide some storage space. And actually, in this aircraft, the seat bases were shortened slightly to provide a little bit of extra legroom. So we do have 5 seats, 5 seat belts in the back, 3 forward-facing and 2 rearward-facing.
And 3-way.
Yep. And we've got a shoulder harness with a lap belt.
Right.
For each passenger.
And air conditioned.
Yep, air conditioning and lights overhead for passengers. Yeah.
Yep, very nice.
Yep.
All right, you comfortable back there, William? Yeah. Executive.
And it's quiet enough back there that you could have a conversation without the headsets on. It's not. It wouldn't be the first choice, but there are people who sometimes choose to take their headsets off in flight.
All right, let's get in and have a look at all the steam gauges.
Okay, so starting at the top here, we have the caution and warning panel.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so originally this aircraft had a bunch of radios here, number 1, number 2 comm radio, number 1, number 2 nav radio, DME and transponder. Right. So upgrades to this particular aircraft, those have been replaced, and now we have an intercom control panel in the center, and we have 2 Garmin GTN 650 touchscreen Navcom units. So these talk to each other, and we can just radio frequencies, navigation frequencies, transponder, and moving map. Nice. This aircraft also pulls in XM information for weather, etc. This is a Garmin GMX 200 unit, which provides a bigger map for us. We can also pull in on the XM. You're going to see TFR information up there. Okay. It can display IFR charts up there as well.
And other aircraft.
You won't see the other aircraft on. Actually, you won't see aircraft on the GMX 200. You'll get the traffic warning on the GTN 650s, the way this one's currently configured. Right. So on the left side, we have co-pilot set of flight instruments, which are basic flight instruments with an attitude indicator, airspeed indicator, altimeter, navigation, so we can do an ILS. Those are both navigation, and then we've got a vertical speed indicator right there. Moving across, we've got number 1 and number 2 engine fuel quantity. You'll see that it's configured in kilograms. So 20 would be 200 kilograms on the left tank, and same on the right tank. And then the auxiliary tank information is at the top.
Oh, I see. Oh, they're little
tiny. Right, so that little tiny needle. Yep. Then we've got the number 1 and number 2 ammeters. Yep. Which, and then we've got hydraulic pressure. So number 1 and 2 hydraulic pressure system pressures. Fuel pressure, number 1 and number 2. Transmission oil temperature and pressure. Right. So these are number 1 and number 2 engine indications. Gas producer in 1 speed, TOT, turbine outlet temperature, and engine oil temperature and pressure.
Right.
Okay.
So let me just ask quickly. So with the engine speeds, there's no way of separating them. I assume everything, whatever you're doing with the throttle is
matched.
Both? Yeah, matched.
It is. I do have the ability to control the torque matching between the engines by left-right on the switch here on the collective,
I see.
which would change the engine speed slightly. So I can make number 1 lead number 2.
Oh, I see.
And I can also forward and back. I can increase and decrease the engine speeds to keep the speed at 100%.
Right.
Generally, don't have to mess with that, but you do have to play a little bit with the matching of the torques. They sometimes split a little bit when you're taking off and landing.
And on startup, are you always starting number 1 first and then number 2, or you keep
no.
them reversed so that they're staying the same amount of time?
There's a convention. So today is the 26th, so it's an even number. So I'm going to start engine number 2 first today because it's an even number. We've got a standby attitude indicator.
Okay.
This is my my rotor tach, which you can see the R, and the number 1 and number 2 engine tachs.
So hang on, the standby. This is a standby to this.
This is the standby.
Yep.
That's Copilot's primary, and on the EFIS 40 system,
you've got a fancy one.
Yeah, EADI up there on top for me. Yeah.
Right, we'll get to see that when we start up.
I'm in the posh seat over here.
Yeah, you've got all the fancy stuff over here. I've got all the 1960s stuff over here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then pilots' flight indications on pilot's flight instruments on the right here. So this is an EFIS 40 system. So I'm got an EADI up here and an EHSI down here.
So is this what the that big black box was controlling?
Correct.
Right.
It's a symbol generator for that.
Right.
Okay. Then this is the this is my airspeed indicator, and the same instruments as on the other side. Altimeter, vertical speed. Got a rad alt here as well.
Yep.
So the rad alt actually feeds into this, so I can set a decision altitude on there, and the light will come on when I hit the decision altitude.
Right.
All right. And then
and where is that radar? It's in the
the
front.
antenna.
The antenna.
It's underneath. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. This is the ELT controls. So it's for the ACK 406 megahertz ELT that we have installed. And
there's the iPod controller.
And you've got the iPod controller here. So I can feed in some audio there.
Yes.
Interestingly, there was one installed in the back for the passengers too.
Yeah, you could play a Nick Murray YouTube channel.
You
could. On here.
You could.
Yeah.
And there's a clock here as well.
Nice.
All right. So you'll see when we start up, this is primary warn as the warning and caution panel. If we get a warning light, flashes yellow. Caution light flashes yellow.
Yep.
Warning light flashes red, and these can reset them.
Okay.
That's how we stop the noise.
And just about all of these have got something behind them?
Everything has something behind it.
So it's pretty cool at night.
Correct. We like dark.
Oh, we like dark?
We like dark.
Oh, you want to have many lights lit up as possible?
Yes.
Yeah.
No lights.
No lights, okay.
So
something new here. This is not common on the helicopter, this bit.
It's common on some helicopters. Landing gear controls. So you can see it's in the down position right now. As soon as we get airborne, past VTOS, takeoff safety speed, we can bring the gear up, and you just pull the handle out a little bit, lift it up. It has a third position, which is down emergency, which if we needed to, if the gear didn't go down on its own, we would have to break the wire here.
I see.
This is shear wire, so it's actually fairly easy to break. It's in the normal position right now, but if I wanted to drop the gear down in an emergency, I can flip that over and then drop the gear all the way down. So that's going to use the emergency hydraulic accumulator to add an extra bit of.
But it could it drop with just gravity?
It could, but I don't know that it would lock. That's a good question. I actually don't know if it's going to do that on its own. So while we're down here,
I guess everyone's going to wonder though, if you're on the ground and everything's running and you push up, will it drop the aircraft on the ground?
The former Augusta tech rep says, no, it will not.
Really?
I will not be trying it.
Okay.
And the reason that it's not going to do that is on the left main landing gear wheel, and I'll show you the switch in a little bit, there's a thing called a weight on wheel switch. We call it a WOW switch. So it knows that the aircraft is on the ground.
Okay.
And that serves a number of functions. One, it will not allow the gear to go up if we were to raise that lever. It also triggers the emergency hydraulic system to recharge for 30 seconds every time that switch is engaged. So it permanently keeps the emergency hydraulic system charged. You'll notice that they're both just a hair under 500 psi of pre-charge pressure. That's the pre-charge pressure in the hydraulic accumulators. And those are under the nose, under the battery compartment here on the right front of the aircraft. These are my brakes.
Your brakes?
My brakes. That's my parking brake.
Oh yeah,
the parking brake is on. The only problem is that because these systems are discharged right now,
doesn't do anything.
It requires hydraulic pressure in order to work. So if you are the owner of an Agusta 109,
aren't we all?
You should probably chock the aircraft when you land,
as you have done,
as I've done, because if you, over a period of time, if that hydraulic pressure discharges, the brakes won't hold anymore.
Right. So you don't even turn it on normally. I noticed it wasn't on.
It wasn't on because the aircraft was was being towed this
roll
morning.
it around, right? Yes.
When we start up, I'll put it on for the startup, and as soon as the system charges up, it's going to put the brakes on.
Right.
The nose wheel lock here is off right now because the aircraft was just towed out. It should be up and locked for flight, and there is a pin that drops down to keep to the nose wheel, which stops it from turning.
Really? So if it's locked and you are taxiing, how do you turn the aircraft?
For taxiing the aircraft, we would leave it off.
Right.
For flight, it is locked. It is on.
Yep.
And then for a running landing, in the event that we need to do that, we would do that with it on. There is enough authority by pushing the tail around to steer the aircraft. Right. If it so we don't want it fluttering around when we're flying around. Okay. So co-pilot has his audio control panel here. Pilot has his audio control panel here, and down here we've got two SAS systems, stability augmentation systems. Aircraft significantly more stable with both of those on. They will not stay on. I can't turn those switches on right now. We need the vertical gyros to be up to full speed before those systems will stay on. We also have coupling.
So these are making you seem like a better pilot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Making up for your shoddy.
My shoddy flying.
Skills. Yeah. I see.
I like to call it pilot-induced smoothness. I didn't trademark that term. That was someone else. Okay. And then we can couple and decouple the flight director from the autopilot. And then we have an auto trim system, which keeps these APIs trimmed out so that the system doesn't reach full authority on the hydraulic actuators.
Yep.
Okay. And attitude hold, which is all part of the autopilot and autoflight system.
So there's a lot here to keep this aircraft
absolutely
smooth and to reduce the workload on the pilot.
Correct. Now, that is also true for general handling of the aircraft, in that I don't move the flight controls without depressing the force trim release button. So when we're flying, in order to move the flight controls, push and hold the switch, manipulate the flight controls to the position that you want them in, release the switch, and they will stay.
Wow.
And they're held by magnetic brakes.
Huh.
Okay. So once the autopilot is engaged, I can just, if we're, let's say, on altitude and heading hold, which I can control from the autopilot control here. So we've got altitude hold engaged and heading hold engaged. This is the heading bug. All I have to do to turn the aircraft is turn the heading bug.
So this is a truly hands-free aircraft.
It can be, yeah.
Yes. You can take a sleep.
Single pilot IFR capable, so it is.
Have you flown at IFR?
I have not flown this one IFR, no. Down here, we'll get to this in just a second. Before we get to that, the collective.
Yes.
So I have my landing light controls here, and my hands are dirty because we were down on the aircraft a few minutes ago. So you see it's in the retracted position right now. That would be the on position, off, retracted. It actually retracts up into the belly of the aircraft.
Once again,
so
streamlining.
Once it's on, the light is on. Then I can use this to control the position and direction that the landing light is facing. So it's extremely useful for coming into to land in, say, East 34th Street or one of the heliports in Manhattan. I also have, when airspeed hold, indicated airspeed hold is turned on in flight, I can increase and decrease that in small increments.
Right.
Using
like
this.
a knot at a time.
Okay. And then there's the go around button.
Yes.
The go around button. Let's say we are making an approach, and we decide we don't like that approach because we now got a contaminated runway, or we're told to go around by tower. I can obviously fly the aircraft away and execute the go around, but there is another method. I can push the go around button. What that will do is it'll bring up the command bars on the EFIS 40 system. I'll get pitch, roll, pitch cue, roll cue, and a collective cue. So the aircraft will pitch wings level. It will pitch itself for a climb, and all I have to do is pull the power in to match the collective cue on the instrument, making sure that I don't exceed any limits, torque, TOT, N1.
So let me ask you, Every time you had to go around, have you actually used that, or do you just fly yourself?
I've used it in practice many times.
Really?
That's cool. Recurrent training is an excellent thing.
Okay.
I have never had to use it for real.
Right.
Okay. So moving down here, we have the hydraulic system controls. So both systems are on right now.
Mm-hmm.
If I do that, that's the number 2 system off. That's back to both. That's the number 1 system off, and we'll do that test in the run up to make sure that both systems
and
are
we'll feel
operating.
the weight on the pedals.
You'll feel the weight on the pedals when we switch to the number 1 off, which is not boosted by. So we're on the number 2 system, meaning we're only boosting the cyclic and collective.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go back to both there. These lights will show us when the normal and emergency hydraulic, main and emergency hydraulic systems are charging.
Right.
There's a test button here which illuminates the lights, make sure the lights are working. Then we have fuel control panel here. It draws a map from where the fuel goes. Tank number 1, tank number 2. These are the fuel pumps. Turn the fuel pumps on. They're electrical fuel boost pumps providing positive pressure for the fuel system. Up through fuel valve number 1 to engine number 1.
Hang on. So is there a crossfeed?
There is a crossfeed.
Wow.
So I turn the pumps off. What I could do if I have an imbalance of fuel between the tanks, either by accident, say maybe overfueling of one engine,
right.
I can leave these. Say number 2 was low. I can leave number 2 fuel pumps off. Open the crossfeed under power. You'll see that little symbol will turn, indicating that we have an open path between the number 1 engine tanks, and can feed both engines.
Right. So then you can monitor it with the.
You'll monitor it with the fuel gauges.
Fuel gauges over here.
And there's 120 kilograms. I think it's 120 kilogram difference permitted between left and right sides.
Oh, I see. So if you got too close to that, then you'd use this crossfeed and even it up.
Yeah, we like to fly them even.
Yeah, that's cool.
They should be flown even.
Wow.
Okay. Moving back, we've got landing gear position indicators. Left main, nose wheel, right main, transit. Green, 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 red. So when the landing gear is in motion or not locked, that light will be illuminated, it'll be red. Right. When all 3 wheels are down and locked, we will get 3 greens. Okay. Again, test button allows us to test the lights before flight. Right. We can switch to slaved or not mode. What is it? Slaved or unslaved? On the directional gyro.
Okay.
Just toggles on and off.
Yep.
Okay. Intercom system on off. Radio master on off. Force trim on off. The force trim is that system we were talking about on
this guy here,
on the cyclic here, that allows this button to actuate. So if I turn the force trim system off, I won't have to push the button.
Right, you're manually flying.
That's correct.
Yep.
And when the autopilot is engaged, the force trim is on. Force trim should be on for the most part. Right. There's no reason to turn it off. Then we've got some of the navigation controls, so we can switch around the modes on the EADI, the EHSI and the EADI. So we can switch from number 1 or number 2 system. This is GPS number 1 and nav number 1, GPS 2, nav number 2, and I can toggle between the 2. I can also show the range on the EHSI. I can change that up and down. I can switch from a full compass to an arc. There's also, you'll see there's a radar test button there, system reference button there. And then I can set my decision height here. I can set the brightness of the screens with this. This is my OBS indication. And Nick, being a budding pilot, should know what OBS is. That's the little needle on the EHSI.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yep. Omni bearing selector. Yep. And then I've got the air conditioning controls vital in the summer.
Oh, here. Look at that, yeah.
So I've got the fan in higher low mode. I've got a test button to illuminate the light to show the compressor's working. And we can be in fan mode, off, or air conditioning mode. And then there's a rheostat there that controls the...
And let's have a quick look at these cyclics. So we talked about this button. And,
correct.
And we've got...
It's your trigger for
firing your cannons.
For missile firing, yes.
Missile firing.
Or alternatively talking to ATC.
Oh, okay, right, yep.
Then
this guy down here?
This one doesn't do anything in this
Doesn't
aircraft.
Just looks good.
Yeah, and this one is the flight director standby. So if I have any of the flight director, if I have the flight director and autopilot system engaged, right?
Yep.
So autopilot on, coupled to the flight director, pushing that, we'll turn it off, and I go back to manual flying mode.
Okay. So how's that different than?
So force trim just allows me to release the magnetic brakes on the cyclic
okay,
to
so
move the controls,
right, and that turns
release
it
that,
off. Yep.
and they hold. This one turns the autopilot system off, effectively.
And this is just a trim for the.
This is a trim button, so if I'm flying in attitude hold mode, by that I mean I'm just flying along attitude hold mode, so manually flying, release the force trim, they stay where they are. If I'm a little bit nose up or a little bit nose down and I want to level the aircraft or a little bit left and right, I can do that very much. I can fine tune the aircraft with the coolie hat on the top of the cyclic.
Very cool.
Okay.
But hang on a minute, we haven't finished.
We're not done.
We're not done.
We're not done. Overhead here.
Overhead.
So we have
Kit from Knight Rider.
yeah, we've got a bunch of circuit breakers here.
Yeah,
we
you've got some
probably
behind your head too, haven't
probably don't want to go through what all
you?
of those
No,
do,
no.
but
Most of them should be in.
they should all be in.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And then moving forward, the wipers have been removed from this aircraft, but this would be the wiper controls.
I see.
This will be the instrument and panel light controls. We have anti-collision lights and position light controls, heater switch. Okay. Here I've got the engine anti-icing number 1 and 2, and the pitot heat number 1 and 2, and the vent switch to open up the vent to allow some fresh air in here.
And just to explain the wipers, people hate having wipers on the helicopters because it's a perspex, isn't it? And
It
it
is.
just ends up damaging the perspex.
It does.
So
And a lot of helicopters have them removed if they were originally installed.
yeah, because there's very rarely that you need them because it's blowing the
Yeah,
the
I mean
water
this
off,
be the
isn't it?
removing, and most of the
Yeah.
water's disappearing.
Yeah.
And then the front row of switches here is my battery switch on the right, my generator number 1 and 2, the generator bus number 1 and 2, and 3 inverters. So there are 3 inverters for redundancy. We actually don't need them all to fly. So let's say number 1, 2, and 3 are all switched on, and number 1 inverter fails. Number 3 is going to take over,
Right.
and it's going to do that automatically. Give me an indication on the warning panel.
So the inverter's providing power for what?
Inverter is providing AC power, so it's taking a DC system,
Yep.
inverting it, giving us AC power, and some of the avionics run off AC.
Oh, okay.
The EFIS 40 system runs off AC power. Some of the other avionics run off AC power.
Yeah. If you have a kettle in here, you'd run it off that as well.
If you want to do that.
Yeah.
There are a few more circuit breakers over my
Over the
head,
back,
which
yep.
are related to gyros, the HSI,
Yep.
vertical gyros, and the flight director system.
Yep.
And there is actually an auxiliary power outlet above your head, behind you up top there.
Oh, yep.
So we can hook in for example, we would use that to power the vibration analysis equipment.
Yep. And for those Porsche fans watching, look at the carbon fibre trim on the vents. That's pretty fancy, isn't
Pretty
it?
fancy.
Yeah.
Pretty fancy. Pretty fancy.
Pay extra for that.
Yeah, air conditioning for pilot and co-pilot up
Yep.
here too.
Like that.
And then, not finished yet, this is
No.
my rotor brake. Okay, so
We'll
we got
pull it
rotor brake
back.
here, so that would be rotor brake engaged,
Oh, yep.
and obviously we want it off for flight.
Right.
Power levers, engine number 1, engine number 2. Starter button number 1, starter button number 2. In flight, these would be in forward mode. Everything is forward for flight. Inverter switches, generator buses, everything is forward for flight.
Okay, so let us understand why we need these. You don't, if it's got a freewheeling hub, why you're starting the engine,
This is effectively engine at idle,
right?
and then we're going to run it all the way up to 100 speed, 100% for flight.
So this is like a throttle?
Pretty much.
Oh, okay. So how's this different than the throttle on the Collective?
No throttle on the
Oh,
Collective.
this doesn't turn?
This doesn't have a throttle.
Oh, okay.
So once we are at 100%, we're in flight.
Yep.
See, it says flight on the side. We're all the way forward. We're at 100% NR, 100% number 1 engine, 100% number 2 engine.
Yep.
Helicopters are basically a constant speed machine, and then we're just varying the amount of power we're pulling from the engine in the form of
Interesting.
torque. So there's no twist grip throttles. That's all taken care of for us. All we have to do is make sure that number 1 and number 2 engines are balanced, which we can do with left and right on the Inker Dinker here, and match the torques on the torque gauge here.
So there's an Inker Dinker?
Inker Dinker.
Right.
Inker
Technical.
Dinker.
Ah, so this is really the throttle. That's cool.
Correct.
And it starts, you're starting the engine.
So in this aircraft,
Yep.
that's off. if I'm going to start engine number 1,
Yep.
I'm going to push and hold the starter button.
Yep.
I'm going to look for 15% on the N1 gas producer. When I hit 15%, I'm going to go to idle.
Yep.
That's going to introduce fuel. That's going to light off the engine. And I'm going to hold that button until I reach about 60% N1. Then I can release it. Engine's at idle. That's it started.
Oh, nice. And then the same procedure.
And you
on
repeat the
other
procedure
end.
for number 2 engine.
Huh. And are you looking for the same turbine telltales that you are in other manual turbines like the...
Absolutely.
Yep.
These being Allison 250 engines, it's almost exactly the same as the Jet Ranger that you've flown before.
So you're looking for temperature gauge.
You look here for N1 first, 15%. Then you introduce fuel, and you'll see light off. You get 2 peaks on the TOT, not to exceed those limits. Then you'll see that oil pressure starts to rise, oil temperature will start to come up.
Excellent.
Wait till you get to idle. Something doesn't seem right, go to the off position.
Right. And the rotor brake, how effective is that at slowing the rotor?
The rotor brake is only supposed to be engaged below 40% NR, so 40% is down here.
Yep.
So when we shut the engines off, engines are going to come down, rotor's going to start coming down. When we get to 40%, we can apply the rotor brake, and that will it slows the rotor down pretty quick to get it to a full stop.
Yep.
Again, it's driven by the hydraulic system. So even if I pull it on right now, because the hydraulic system is discharged, it's not having any effect.
Yeah. And we won't try that during flight.
No.
Okay.
It's not going to be good.
Okay.
I have my OAT gauges up here. I got some heater controls. It's just 3 little switches.
Oh, yep. Have a look.
Okay. Mixing number 1 and number 2. So I've got shut-off valves for heater number 1, number 2 up here.
Yep.
And then I've got a little rheostat here which controls the heater temperature. The heater switch is here, the main heater switch. And then I have one little black button here.
Secret button?
Secret button.
What does that do?
That turns the light on so I can see the temperature of the OAT gauge when it's dark.
Fancy. Very fancy.
That's what that does.
All right.
Okay. There's just to finish, there's a collector friction control here. Cyclic friction is down in my footwell right here.
Oh, yep.
And my VNE chart is here.
Yep. And a button to pull your seat forward.
And yes, a lever. A pilot gets again.
What? A pilot gets one? I don't get one?
No, you don't get one.
Oh.
No, yeah. Luxury for the pilot. Get to slide my seat forward and back.
Yeah.
You can, however, we do allow the co-pilot to put his pedals in and out. So you might want to.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Turn that. That's going to push the pedals away from you.
Yep.
There we go.
Very good.
And then we got our harnesses here.
Oh, yep.
So the 4-point harness, which all clips together.
Yep.
Twist in either direction to open. And our headsets are hanging up above.
Very cool. All right. Let's take this puppy for a ride.
Ready to go for a spin?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. All good.
Let's do it. Okay.
All right, so we're here with the checklist. Chocks have already been removed. Somebody knows where we're going. Fuel pumps are off. Fuel valves are on. Cross feed is closed. Tail rotor pedals have been adjusted. Seat belts are secured on the right, secure on the left.
Sort of.
Okay, nose wheel lock comes on. Auto trim switch is on. SAS 1 and 2 are off. Parking brake is on. Cyclic stick is centered. Collective stick is down. Friction is on. Landing lights are off. Anti-collision lights are on. Position lights are off. Anti-icing and pitot heats are off. Battery is off. Generators are off. Gen buses are off. And inverters are all off. Power levers are fully aft. Rotor brake is fully forward and aft. Altimeters are set to field elevations about sea level, which they are.
Yes.
And I just heard the ATIS, it was 299 or 4, I believe, so I think we're good there. The landing gear lever is in the down position. It's in the landing gear emergency, landing gear lock is in the normal position and wired. The servo hydraulics are set to both. And we are on to page 2. Okay, so we can switch to headsets now if you want.
All right, let's do it.
We're just about to
Headsets
put
on.
the battery on. Okay, power.
Yeah.
Okay, check. Nick, you should be able to hear me over there.
I can hear you all right, and I can tell you that the engine 1 is low.
Okay.
Warning.
So that's Bitch and Betty. She'll stop talking soon. Okay, so we turned the battery on. The generator buses number 1 and 2 are on, and I reset the master caution and warning switches. The clock is going to be tested. See if it's running. It is. Go back to test and reset. So Radio master is off, force trim is on, instrument lights are all off, we don't need those. Caution walking panel. Okay, here we go with the full audio warning that you're going to see. So here's all the lights.
Oh yeah, look at them.
Okay.
Rotor.
It's the secondary panel here as well, which shows us anti-icing, pitot heats, landing lights, etc.
Engine 2 low.
So she'll run through a full sequence of audio tests.
Engine 1
Oh, we're seeing
fire.
this. These guys
This is going to start to fire up.
Engine
While
2
she's doing that,
fire.
I'm going to test all the...
Warning.
This is the N1 TOT. All the lights come on,
Landing
I get
gear.
1s and 8s, and the needles all top out.
Low
Then I'm going to
fire.
test the lights on the hydraulic system to see that those are charged, that the lights are working. Then we're going to test the lights on the landing gear position, and these other lights down here. And then we're going to test the one for the AC. So we've got to make sure all the lights work before flight. Okay, so they're all working.
Why aren't the Garmin's coming on?
Because I haven't turned the radio master
Oh,
on
I
yet.
see,
They
yeah.
won't fire up until we get the engines running. Okay, so we're going to check. We've got 100 kilos of fuel outside. We're only flying for a few minutes, so that's plenty. Rotor engine beep is already done. Engine number 1 and 2 fuel valves are on. And like I said earlier on, we're going to start engine number 2 first today. So, if you're ready for an engine start,
Let's do it.
I'm going to shout out the door here and scare Brian. Clear! Okay, I'm going to close my door. We're clear all around. There's nobody on the ramp here other than Brian. So what's going to happen, if you're ready? While we're doing that, you can see overhead here I've got 24 volts on both systems, which is a good sign.
Oh, I see.
So that's DC volts and AC volts. You'll see 0 until
So what's this guard?
This is the bar that turns off absolutely everything
I see.
altogether.
Right.
Engine 1
Oh,
Okay,
now
now
we've started here again.
No, she's good. We can stop. Okay, you ready for engine start?
Engine start, yep.
Okay, so we're going to turn one of the fuel pumps on. We've got fuel pressure here. I'm going to start the clock. I like to do this calm, no rush. We're going to wait till that says 10 seconds. I'm reaching up. I got engine number 2. Power lever, 9, 10. I'm looking here for 15% on the N1. There it is. Light off. You'll notice that we get engine number 1 TOT. You'll notice that the blades are turning outside. Oil pressure is rising. We go above the 810. I'll count to 10. 1, 1002, 1003. We're already below 810, which is good.
Peak.
Yep, we've seen both peaks. You see the oil pressure still rising. And we're coming up on 60% N1. Release the starter. Accelerate forward just to get up to 50 to 60% on the end. The rotor speed here. And then go back to idle. Engine number 2 has been started. And that took about 36 seconds. That's cool.
Warning. Warning. Warning.
Notice that the hydraulic systems are now almost fully charged. The emergency utility system is still charging. And when that light goes off, we know it's fully charged. Uncage. Standby attitude indicator. Go back to the checklist. Done all that for engine number 2. Transmission oil temperature and pressure coming up. So the oil temperature is coming up. The pressure's still a little bit low because we're only spinning pretty slow at the moment. Okay. So we've been up and running for more than a minute. We're going to go to 100% on engine number 2 here. And you notice the engine and rotor speeds are coming up.
Yep.
And I've turned on the number 2 generator. We're going to recharge the battery a little bit here.
So you just ease that up.
Yeah, ease that up until 100%. Correct. You notice the torque's up on engine number 2.
Yep.
Engine number 1 is still at 0. And we're at about 98% on the engine number 2 and the rotor system, which goes together. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait for the ammeter to come down below 70% here. This means the battery's had a chance to recharge, at which point I'll switch that generator off, and I'll use the battery to start the second engine.
Oh, really? Why the battery?
The manual says to do it that way.
Okay.
We could start straight away, but better to give the battery a bit of a recharge.
Yep.
So we're already down to 80%
Okay.
there, or 80 amps.
I'm going to reset the clock.
Yeah, because the batteries are never large in the aircraft, are they? Nothing the same weight.
We're at 70. We're at 70 amps. So we're going to pull that number 2 generator off. You'll notice that goes to 0. We get a warning. We're going to start engine number 1. So put on some fuel pump. We've got some fuel pressure. Reset the clock. Start the clock. We're going to start engine number 1, which is our second engine today. Okay. So eyes on the N1. Looking for 15%. There it is. Go to idle. We've got light off. Watch the TOT. Stays below 810. Oil pressure's coming up. There'll be a second peak.
So when you're watching for that peak, is there any other...
Yeah, there's some limits that cannot be exceeded.
Yeah, yeah.
Go above 810, 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000, 6, we're below, and we're at idle. Second engine started. We would know if something has been exceeded, one of these lights would remain on.
Oh, the little light.
Yeah,
on, I see.
Correct. So
right.
if I exceed some of the limitations, there's a telltale that's gonna tell on me.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Nothing like that in the Jet Ranger.
No. In the later models, there is a TOT over temp. So now that we've got that, we can turn the generators on.
Yep. See them come up.
Amps come up. Now we can turn the inverters on, right?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, and you notice the inverter lights went out. We're going to turn all fuel pumps off because we're going to do a fuel test in just a second. And notice our transmission oil pressures now come up to something more acceptable. Okay, so we've got all that done.
Why do we have less amps on the left engine?
There's a mismatch in this for some reason. Right. I don't know why that is today. Okay, so now that we're up and running, we're going to go 100% on both engines. You'll notice the torque indications, and 1 is joining 2, they're going to come together.
Yep.
And I will match them. There, 1 and 2 are pretty much the same. Now I'm going to do an anti-icing check. So I'm going to do the anti-icing number 1, and if you look on the TOTs, you're going to see a rise on both. That's 1 and 2 on. You'll see them come up about 25 or 30 degrees. Okay, those are both working. I'm going to turn them both off again. Okay, then I'm going to do pitot heat. If you look at the ammeter here, if I turn pitot heat number 1 on, you'll see that needle jump. Here we go. Boom, small jump.
Yep.
Turn it off. Pitot heat number 2. Boom, small jump. And you notice the advisory light came on as well. Okay. Those are good. Now we're going to check the hydraulic system. To check the hydraulic system, we make sure we're in both. We look here, and we're going to push the button, and I'm going to move the cyclic around. And I'm looking. I'm not allowed to see more than 70 psi drop on those gauges. They didn't move at all.
Right.
Up and down on the collective, and a little left and right on the pedals.
As soon as you pull up on the collective, you feel it smooth right out,
right.
don't you?
So then I'm going to turn number 2 off, and you notice number 2 has gone to 0. We've got the light, which says servo number 2, and I'm going to reset the caution. Now, I'm going to do the same thing and make sure I don't, there's the cyclic, small drop that time.
Yeah.
Lift the collective, small drop, pedals are still working. Go back to both, pressure's restored. Now go to number 1 off, there's a little kick and I'm holding a little pressure on the left pedals because the pedals are not boosted. Now, same thing, no more than 70, good, cyclic, collective, back to both, pedals relax, and the pressure's come back up. That's that finished.
But you'd have no trouble bringing it in for landing with no pressure on, no hydraulic pressure on the tail.
Yeah, it's a little bit of effort, but it's definitely manageable. Right, we're going to do a fuel system check. I'm going to go through this real quick. Number 1 on, 3 on, shows the pressure lights go off. Cross speed open.
Go wind 230 at 11, runway 24.
Both sides.
Oh, I see how it switches.
Yep. And 3 go, 1 and 3 go off. Pressure drops. 2 and 4. Pressure both sides. Close the cross feed. Pressure drops on the number 1 side.
Yep.
Leave all 4 pumps on.
That's really cool.
Fuel system check done. Now we're going to check the SAS system. The VG lights have gone out, which means the vertical gyros are up to full speed. I can turn the SAS systems on. Now we've got a clean panel up here except for the parking brake.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to
did you turn on the radio master then?
I did, there just a minute ago, yeah. So now, if you look at the little APIs, which shows you the indication should be centered, it's automatically going to trim them to center.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn attitude hold off, okay? And then I'm going to push slightly forward on the cyclic. You'll see the API for the cyclic, and I'm going to push slightly left, and then a little bit of left pedal. Now, if I push the force trim, watch, they all go back to the center. Now I'm going to check aft, right, and right pedal. Push force trim, they go back. Now if I turn SAS system number 1 off, it's now showing me the number 2 indications. I'm going to go forward and left, reset, center both, back and right, force trim, hold it down, they center. Push SAS number 2 off and the attitude hold switch will automatically pop back up. And now I can put the SASs on. The check is complete. Just while these are booting up, I'm going to let them do their business. Okay, we're almost ready for flight. So, the last check we got to do before we start taxiing is the autopilot check. So attitude hold switch goes off. Force trim we verify is on. If I push the standby, you'll see all the lights come on, which is correct. Now I push the go around button, which we talked about earlier on. You'll see that the command bars come up. Pitch, roll, and collective.
Okay, so these are what you're following.
That's correct. Now I'm going to use the heading bug to center the heading bug. There it is.
Oh, look at that.
Now I'm going to push heading hold. The collective cue goes away. If I turn left, you'll see the heading bug turns left and the roll bar goes, command bar goes left. Right goes right. Recenter again. Now set the VSI to 500 feet up. Push vertical speed hold. We get 500 feet per minute rate of climb indicated and a pitch up on the command bar.
Oh, yep.
Okay. Now, to finish the sequence, push the flight director standby on this. The command bars should go away. All the lights light up. Job's done.
Right.
Attitude hold switch comes back on. Set the rad out to 50 feet. The light comes on. Push and hold the test button. The needle goes to 100.
Yep.
I get 100 indicated on the ADI. Release. Goes back to 0. Set it for 200 or whatever you choose.
Wow.
And that's it. We are ready to taxi. So, the remaining things we got to do, listen to the ATIS real quick, talk to tower and get out of here. So, lights as required, P2 heat, anti-icing, power levers are full forward, caution and warning panel, brakes are off, nose wheel lock is off, and we are ready for taxi. Okay, all set?
Yep, all set.
Okay, I'm going to let us listen to the ATIS real quick. They must be resetting. All right. Well, we got it a couple of minutes ago. It was Quebec, so we'll stick with that. All right. We're on comm number 2 here. We're both on radio number 2, and I'm on ground. You ready to go? Yep. All right.
Bridgeport ground. Good morning. Augusta 23 Juliet Bravo.
Augusta 23 Juliet Bravo, Bridgeport ground. Good morning.
Augusta 23 Juliet Bravo is outside the 3 wing rotors running, ready for taxi, requesting a VFR departure to the west. We're just going for a local flight. We'll be back in less than 10 minutes.
Augusta 23 Juliet Bravo, not inside the tower. Caution. And taxi to runway 24 at Bravo intersection. Oh, sure.
Runway 24 at Bravo intersection, hold short. Look up at 23 Juliet Bravo next.
All right, brought the map up on GPS number 1.
Bridgeport 8 information, Romeo's now clear, runway 23010, now turn 2904.
All right, ready to go? Yep. All right, tail is clear both sides, clear all the way around. Warning and caution lights are all extinguished. Temperature pressures are all within normal limits, and we've got 100 kilos of sight. Here we go. We got one guy out here. Tail's clear right, coming forward. So pull a little bit of collective, start to roll forward. Little left cyclic, little left pedal, around she goes. Have a look on the taxiway. Clear left and right on the taxiway. Okay. We'll switch to tower. Turn the fan on. Got a bit of airflow coming out above you by your head there.
So you're steering with?
I'm steering with the pedals, but I'm also using just a little bit of left cyclic. So a little left cyclic, little left pedal. I got toe brakes down here to stop the aircraft.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
On top
You don't
of
have
your
those?
pedals, yep.
We're holding short of 2-4. I can also pull us up using the parking brake. Close our windows.
Oh, so if I was flying, I could slow us with this?
You could.
Okay.
Bridgeport Tower, Augusta 23 Juliet Bravo is holding forward at 24 on Bravo, ready for departure.
23 Julia Bravo, report tower, okay, we're runway 24, being Bravo, clear for takeoff, and then you can proceed on course.
Alright, 24 being Bravo, clear for takeoff on course, 23 Julia Bravo, thanks.
Up we go. There we are. Up and stable. Looks normal, feels normal. You notice the torques are nicely matched. Yep. It's about 75% for us to hover. Tail is clear right. We're going to look a quick look around here. Make sure there's no traffic. We're going to stay away from the runway. Just before departure, lights are all extinguished. Temperatures and pressures are all within normal limits. Fuel is still about 90 kilos aside, which is ideal. And we're ready to go. You ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right. We're going to pull it up. It's about 85% of torque.
I see the radar altitude is working.
Yep. I'm going to get to about 70 feet. 50, 60, 65, 70. Drop the nose. Accelerate forward. Airspeed's alive. There's 40 knots. That's takeoff safety speed. The gear can come up. You'll see the red transit light is on down there.
Yep.
Landing gear.
And if below 150 feet, she's going to tell us.
Oh, yep.
The landing gear is.
Oh, so this is to stop you from landing on the belly.
It'll go up in just a second. Right. So here we are. We're climbing away. 600 feet. There, the light's gone up. Oh, it flickered. All right. So about 90 knots, climbing away at about 700 feet per minute. Center the heading bug. Heading hold comes on.
So it's trimming itself on its own. You're not. Look at this.
I'm now not doing
Helicopter
anything.
pilot, hands off. This is unbelievable.
So I'm going to set the power to about 85% on the torque.
It's super smooth.
Here comes 1,000 feet. Push altitude hold. Aircraft's going to level itself off. So now the aircraft is on altitude hold and heading hold. I am guarding the controls, but the aircraft is flying itself.
Yeah, this requires no piloting skills at all, this aircraft, does it?
Sure,
This
sure.
is such a this is a cheating aircraft.
We will test you later.
Why is there a discrepancy on the torque?
Slight mismatch. I'll match those. There's a little bit of fine tuning that happens when we take off, so I'll match them out there now. So if I want to turn 10 degrees nose left, I'm just going to turn the heading bug, reset it to a number that I like, let's say 250, and boom, the aircraft's going to turn at standard rate 3 degrees per second. We're at 130 knots. If I pulled 85, we'll be happily cruising at 140 knots.
We are rocketing.
Yeah.
So that's what it will cruise at?
This aircraft's very, very happy at about 140 knots indicated.
Wow. She's a fast mover, huh?
She is. She's Italian, you know.
She's Italian,
Yeah, they make it. They're pretty. They go fast. So there we go. We've already cleared Bridgeport's airspace, and if we were going to New York City, you got a great view of the skyline of Manhattan there off the nose. All right, are you ready to make a right turn here?
Let's do it.
It's very difficult. I'm going to turn the heading bug all the way around to about 060.
And you can see the bug going around.
See the bug going around. Set that right there.
So what determines how much angle it's going to use to get around there?
It's going to always turn at a standard rate, 3 degrees per second. So the helipilot computers are going to calculate that. But somewhere around, 15 degrees of bank is probably not unusual at this speed. 15 to 20 degrees of bank.
Tower helicopter 23 Julia Bravo, south side of the Delta to the west of the 1,000 feet. Inbound requesting a short approach and a low approach runway 24 if that's possible.
And good 3 Julia Bravo, okay, enter right down for runway 24 and report midfield.
Right down with 24, report midfield. 23 Julia Bravo, thanks.
Wow. Yeah, so you'll notice we've come around, we're doing 140 knots. Yep. Everything's nice and happy, and we've got a little tailwind right now, so we're doing the best part of 150 knots of ground speed.
And we've got oodles of power in reserve.
Yeah, I mean, we're at 85% of torque, plenty in reserve.
And can you pull past 100% for short periods?
Yeah, there's a 100 to 104 is a takeoff limit.
Oh, yep. So if we had 5 passengers on board with some luggage,
we wouldn't be able to go full fuel.
Yep.
And they wouldn't be very big people in this particular aircraft. But Yeah, I mean, we would still be pulling 85% of torque and doing the best part of 140 knots.
Yeah.
We got Bridgeport Airport in sight right off the nose there. We're going to enter a right downwind for 2-4, and hopefully Brian is there waiting to see us. Get some pre-landing checks out of the way here, Nick. Warning caution lights are all extinguished. Temperature and pressures are all within normal limits. Fuel's down to about 80 kilos per side. And I'm at 1,000 feet, which is pattern altitude, which is ideal. So turn the landing light on. I'll start to slow down. I'm going to take the friction off a little bit. I'm going to release the flight director standby button. I'm going to release that. Notice the controls are still staying where they are because the magnetic brakes are holding them. And then I can lower the collective. Push the button, lower the collective after the cycling a little bit of right pedal.
Tower 23 Juliet Bravo, midfield right downwind, runway 24 for low approach.
3 Juliet Bravo, short approach, runway 24, clear low approach, and same intentions after that.
Short approach, slow approach, 24, intentions after that, 1-4 around the pattern, back in, full stop, 3 wing.
Okay, on the go, right traffic.
Roger.
Okay, so I'm going to decelerate. We're below 120, so officially we could lower the landing gear. I like to do that at 100 knots or less. Here we come around on 2-4. We're going to drop the landing gear. You'll feel the brakes come on a little bit. Did you feel that?
Yeah.
So the landing gear's going down. What we're looking for is 3 greens. That will indicate the landing gear's down and locked. We'll level out over the runway. Pull back in a little power. We'll give Brian
Height.
a 90 knot. At 150 feet, you'll notice the warning system came back on and told us low height. That's 150 feet AGL. We decided we're going to abort the landing. So, if you like, I can push the go around button. Yep. I'll just pull the collective up to match the queue. I can release the cone. All I have to do is not exceed any limits. She'll put herself in a climb. Pull the gear up.
Easy as that.
Yeah, it'll put the aircraft in a wings level situation in a climb. If you pull the power to the right amount, you're good to go. Okay, that's that. So we've cleaned it up. The gear's up and stowed again. We're in the right traffic pattern. Clear right. I'll hand fly us around the corner. Right turn.
Look at you. Look at you actually flying the aircraft for once.
It's amazing. Isn't
it? So it's beginning to wonder.
So I had to knock the autopilot off there so it doesn't take over. Match the torques. Coming through 700 feet.
Tower helicopter 23 Juliet Bravo, midfield right downwind, full stop, request Alpha Charlie.
23 Juliet Bravo, Alpha taxiway, beam Charlie, clear land.
Alpha, beam Charlie, clear to land, 23 Juliet Bravo, thanks.
Alright, Nick, if you want to reach forward, drop the landing gear for me.
Alright, landing gear coming down.
Pull it out a little bit.
Pull it out.
There you go, down it goes. Let me know when you've got 3 green lights.
Transition, one green light, nose, 3 greens.
3 greens it is. As a good habit, when you hear the warning for low height at 150 feet, that is our double check. That's the trigger for the double check that we have the gear down and locked.
Right.
Bridgeport Tower 30 Yankee Romeo.
So, pre-landing lights, green,
And that's November 30 Yankee Romeo.
T's and P's all green, fuel 80, landing gear's down and locked, nose wheel lock is on, parking brake is off.
2,800, heading to 95.
We are ready.
November 0 Yankee Romeo, okay. Bridgeport altimeter is 2994.
994, thank you, sir.
For the vibration as we come through ETL. That'll smooth out like that. There we go.
3 Bravo, taxi to parking street.
To the parking with you, 23 Juliet Bravo.
There's the ground. Go then. On the ground. Lower the collective. Nose wheel lock comes off so we can taxi, a little bit of power, and away we go.
That is very cool, isn't it? What a pleasure on an aircraft to fly.
It is, isn't
There's
it?
just no skill involved whatsoever, is there?
Oh, thank you, Nick. Appreciate the confidence in
Yeah.
my flying abilities
Yeah.
as always. Okay. We're going to pull up right where we were before. Tail is clear. We reached a full stop.
An audience.
Put the parking brakes on.
Yep.
Neutralize the flight controls. Reach up. Power levers come to idle. Reset the warning.
Rotor.
Start the clock.
Engine 1
Both engines
low.
are at idle.
Engine
Start the
1
clock.
Low.
Wait for a 2-minute cool down.
She's an urgent sounding woman, isn't
Engine
she?
2
She is a
low.
little urgent.
Engine 2 low.
So,
Warning.
back to our
Warning.
checklist. After landing, brakes as needed. Parking brake is on. Nose wheel lock is off. We're going to be ground handling. That's correct. Collective down. Friction on. Cyclic centered friction on. Tail rotor pedals adjusted. Air conditioning is off. Power levers at idle for 2 minutes. Engine instruments within limits. Everything looks normal.
So we're waiting for a cool down, basically.
We're waiting for a 2-minute cool down. We're at 40 seconds already. I'll open the door, let a bit of air in here.
I'll do the same. Oh look, this fits carbon fibre as well.
Yep.
Now that's so cool, Andrew. What a neat aircraft to fly. What a smooth, fast aircraft it is. And it really takes all of the stress off the pilot, doesn't it? You could fly this for hours without...
It's a comfortable aircraft
Yeah.
to fly. The complexities of some of the Class Bravo airspaces like New York, when you have a little bit of automation, it does help offload the pilot.
Yep.
For the most part, if we can.
Yep.
We like to fly with 2 pilots. One person takes care of the hand flying, the other takes care of the rest of the business, like the radios.
Yep.
And that adds an extra level of safety as well. So, now that we're coming up on the end of this, we started engine number 2 first, so when we get to 2 minutes here, we will both engines will come off, then we'll take the fuel pumps off. We can be ahead of ourselves, we can take the fuel pumps off now. Cross speeds remain closed, we didn't use them. Okay,
So the fuel pump's off, it's still able to suck the fuel through.
yeah, I mean, it's still got the engine driven pumps.
Yeah.
These are the electric wheels. So we're over 2 minutes. Reach up, pull down and back, decrease, decrease, reach up, down and back, decrease, decrease. Now we'll monitor the TOTs, make sure nothing unusual happens.
Right.
Engine number 1 and 2, needles coming down, rotor speeds coming down. If we wanted to, now that we're at 40% NR, we could engage the rotor brake.
Oh, yeah.
On the last flight of a day, I don't engage the rotor brake, I let it coast down, because if I use the rotor brake, I will get an erroneous indication on the main rotor transmission fluid level, because it's combined with that system.
Oh, I see. And what would we be watching for on the...
We're looking for
turbine
any
out?
sort of spike in the TOTs here,
Yep.
which might indicate we've got an engine fire.
Okay.
They've come down, we're into wind, but these will creep back up to somewhere in the mid 300s. It wouldn't be surprising if I saw 350, 370.
Right, just because there's not enough passing through to keep it cool.
They'll then stabilize there and they'll start to cool off. Checklist: crossfeed, pitot heat, cabin lights, external cockpit lights, external lights, miscellaneous switches are off. Rotor brake we're not using. Radio master, inverters, 3, 2, 1. And then we wait for the battery bar.
Do a bit of cleaning.
Mike Rubby paw prints can come off
yeah,
the touchscreen GPSs.
So anybody that is looking to take your services, where do they go?
Azimuth Aviation in the coming weeks will commence service to pretty much anywhere within the Northeast region. For example, for us to go to New York City from here, it's about 22 minutes. The Hamptons from here is about 25 minutes.
And so
Boston's under an hour.
Flight from downtown Manhattan to the Hamptons
Is about 40 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a quick way to get around.
That's cool.
All right, rotor blades have come to a complete stop.
Yep.
As soon as we pull the gang bar here, we're going to lose power, we're going to lose intercom, so we'll have to take
We'll say thank you very much. We'll
Fist
do this.
bump.
Yep.